My son served a mission in Ghana, and I decided that I wanted to be involved somehow in a humanitarian capacity, but I didn't have any money to do it. I thought maybe in 2 years I could think of a miracle, or God could make a miracle. I'd have an idea of how to do it. And it took 10 months, and I ended up in Kenya with another organization, and I just wanted to see how they were doing what they were doing. And it changed my life so totally that when I came back, I just had a meeting with God about things, and I just explained to him, as much as you can explain things to God, that I didn't understand his mission for me. I didn't understand his purpose. He had given me a very random skill set. I was a music major. I'm very passionate about mothering. I'm very passionate about education and families and strengthening families. And I didn't know what work he had for me to do, but if he would just come into my life and arrange it how he wanted it to be, then that would be cool with me. And within a few days, I had the thought that we should put our house on the market. And I didn't want to do that because I really loved my house, and that's a lot of work. And then I got a little bit chastised. I didn't say anything to my husband. I didn't do anything. And then I had this thought, if I give you an instruction, I need you to do it now. And the same day as I was driving along, just going about my business, I just had this feeling over my body that we were going to Africa. So that night, as we were discussing something else, I made a joke and I said, haha, we could always move to Ghana. And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, well, if we moved to Ghana, we'd have to learn how to live so radically differently that we'd have time to be a family. And then the next day, I remember, was a Sunday morning, and I woke up with the thought in my mind, now get rid of everything. Everything. And we have 10 kids, so that's a lot of stuff. We've lived in the same place for 20 years. Get rid of everything. And we didn't know what we were supposed to do. We didn't know why we were going. We didn't know where we were going to go. We landed in Ghana. Every part of it was a miracle, start to finish. We went with our 2 checked bags. Everyone had a suitcase of just their personal items and then a bag of books. I think we each had a student mattress on the floor, which is just basically a foam pad. We each had a bowl and a mug and a spoon. Just a totally different kind of lifestyle that we were living. And for 18 months, we didn't know what we were doing there or what we were supposed to do. But because of that, we learned how to trust and we learned how to rely on the Lord. One of the struggles that we had raising our family was financial, because to raise a family that large requires quite a bit of sacrifice. I can remember certain times in my life when I did not know what I was going to feed my kids for dinner. And I remember one time feeding them microwave popcorn because that's what was in my pantry. Now I can see how those experiences have made it possible for me to relate to people who live that way on a day-to-day basis. Always what's been foremost in their mind is, what are we going to eat today? And what am I going to do to just get a few CDs, just to get a little bit of money so that we have food today? I would not have been able to relate to them, and they wouldn't have been able to relate to me if I hadn't had those kinds of experiences in my own life. So there was an organization that was working with other mothers of missionaries to clothe the Native missionaries, the African missionaries that would come there with just, a few clothes in a grocery bag. No suitcase, nothing that they needed. We had 56 checked bags that we were carrying over there, and plus our carry-ons. And my son was with me. And as we were receiving the donations that we were going to carry the following morning, he said, we cannot control this much baggage. How are we going to get this through customs? And I said, I have no idea, but it's going to be okay. So we go on our flight, and I'm thinking, okay, and I have 2 flights. I can figure out how we're going to do this with customs. I don't know how we're going to no one is going to buy for a second that we're tourists coming for 2 weeks, because 56 checked bags, right? So here we are coming in for landing, 90 seconds from landing, and my daughter gets motion sick, and she throws up all over. And now I'm thinking, okay, now I got to deal with this. I'm like, seriously, Heavenly Father? And then I thought, oh, wait, this is it. This is how we're going to do it. So when we got off the plane, we get to the customs counter, when we have our piles of bags, like so many behind us. And I put her front and center in front of the customs agent, and I just said, I need to deal with this. So what do you need from me? And they just said, we just need to see da-da-da. They could see we had some humanitarian supplies, but by this time, the smell, right? So she just waved us through. And I turned around to my son, and he just said, he was in the back. He's like, what just happened? And I said, sometimes blessings look like barf. Sometimes things that might feel even catastrophic at times are going to be in some way of benefit, and they're going to be some way that God has provided a blessing, if you can see it in that way.